crispy fries, a drink, and an ice cream sundae of your choice for only $5. Remember, at DQ, you can lick their cones, but you can't beat their shakes. Dairy Queen, Silver Springs, where they always treat you like kings and queens.
26 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking Thursday. It is here at the Paddock Mall, 83 degrees, just to tell you that.
Yeah.
All right, boy, we've got another great interview. Kristin Newman is on the phone. She is a writer. She's written for some TV shows that you might have seen. That 70s show. I have seen that 70s show. Chuck is another show. How I Met Your Mother, The Neighbors, and she's got a book. And when I was first told about the book, I kept saying to the publicist, breathing? No, breeding. Breathing? Like air? No, breeding, procreation. The book is called What I Was Doing While You Were Breeding. It's a memoir, and somebody who writes funny stuff obviously is writing a funny book, and it's described as funny and sexy. So we're looking forward to talking to Kristin Newman. Good morning, Kristen. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm great. Hello, Florida.
Hello. Where are you?
I'm in California, Santa Monica.
Well, I love Santa Monica.
It's pretty good. It's pretty gorgeous. A little gray today, but it's a pretty place.
I stayed for a while on 5th Street, right down the road from the Lawrence Welk building. I don't know if it's still called that or not, but that was years ago.
Yeah, not far. I'm on 16th, just a few blocks up.
So you're up early to be with us. I appreciate that. So do you still write for TV shows?
I do. I just started on a brand new gig yesterday, which I'm really excited about. It's called Gallivant, and it's going to be the first musical comedy that Network TV has ever done. It'll be on ABC coming this winter, and it's with Alan Menken, who is the composer who did every Disney movie you've ever seen: Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid.
Wow.
He did Little Shop of Horrors. He's been doing musicals forever. And I got to sit in a room with him yesterday and write songs with him. And then he sat and played a medley for 20 minutes of all of his big Oscar-winning songs. We all cried and thought about our childhoods. It was great.
Oh, that is cool. So it's a sitcom? Yeah. That's a musical? It's a week?
Yeah, every week? It's going to be they're going to do 8 episodes, and then we're going to air 2 per week for 4 weeks. It's like Princess Bride meets Spamalot is how they're treating it. It's shot in England with castles and cathedrals and princes and kings and jousting, and there'll be 3 original Alan Menken songs per episode. It's got a very kind of Monty Python, but Princess Bride. It's really great.
Oh wow! And so, how do you get your head into that as far as a writer? What do you do?
Well, I watched a lot of Monty Python and Princess Bride, and remembered all of those good constructs. And I was a nerdy musical theater kid growing up. And I got married 3 weeks ago to a guy whose mom was a Broadway performer forever too. So I kind of have been. I'm a musical geek.
Well, you're a newlywed and a writer in Hollywood. Wow!
Yeah,
wow!
Congratulations!
In one of my favorite cities, Santa Monica. Wow! Okay, this is going good.
Good month. I know. I'm hoping that I'm like getting paid back for some bad stuff in the past, and it's not like I now owe some in the karmic column because of this great month that I now owe bad things in the future. We'll see.
So do you have to? Is it hard? I mean, Monty Python had a lot of songs with funny words, funny lyrics. Is that difficult to do compared to what you've done before?
There's a lyricist. So, Alan Menken has his lyricist, Glenn, who he's worked with for 15 years, too. So he kind of writes lyrics after we give them the sort of idea of what the song will be about.
See. Okay, all right. We'll have to look forward to Gallivant. Let's talk about the book, though. It's called What I Was Doing While You Were Breeding. Do you remember the song? And I don't remember the title, and it was kind of a dorky song, actually. I hope you don't take offense to that. Maybe you wrote it. but it was about, I've never been to me. It was about this lady. I've done this. I've seen these kings, and I've undressed for these people.
Oh, yeah, I remember
right.
the song, yeah.
Do you remember that song?
I don't remember the song, but that sounds like me.
Yeah. Oh no! But in the song, this woman is talking about how she's traveled the world and done all these things, and she's kind of lamenting at the women who admire her because she's in fact admiring them. She's saying, "You're admiring me for all the things I've done. I really admire you because you stayed home, you had children, and all that." So is that kind of the same theme with you?
Well, it goes both ways, right? I mean, the title is cheeky, and it sounds to some people like I'm criticizing people who got married and had kids, but that's really not it at all. It was trying to sum up the fact that, on a bad day, I felt like my friends who had babies and were home were jealous of me because I was I was afraid of marriage. I pushed it away. I took amazing trips instead and enjoyed my freedom, because that was my addiction, was traveling and having international romances, which is what I write about. And on bad days for my friends who had babies, they were home wishing they could have the freedom to get on a plane and just go. And on a bad day for me, I was sitting on the couch alone and wishing that I had love and family. On a good day, I was so grateful that I could get up and go. On a good day, they were so grateful for their love and their family. But it kind of changes day to day, right? Whether or not the other side looks greener or the other side looks sadder.
Yeah.
Do you still think that you have the freedom that you had when you were single then?
In a lot of ways,
I know.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yes. In a lot of ways, no. Right? In a lot of ways, like I've got to behave myself a little better. But what was interesting was that I grew up, because of my family background, I sort of felt like you got married when you were ready to give up. When you were ready to stop having fun and stop exploring and stop growing and stop changing, then you got married because it was over. And I got married this month, and I published this book, and it's very personal, and it's a lot of adventures, and I've got to say I'm not positive I would have been brave enough to publish it if I weren't feeling really safe and loved. And so it was this light bulb that went off last summer only, really, which was, oh, wow, I think that that getting married, finding love, sort of freed me up to be even braver than I had been in the past in some ways, which was exciting.
Oh my goodness! You got to find this song. I have to look it up and see what the heck it was called.
Mm-hmm. Please send it to me. That'd be great.
It goes back to the 70s, so.
I like it. Well, I go back to the 70s.
So yeah. Well, okay. So I'm finding this very fascinating, and now in writing a memoir that's very personal, and as being a funny person yourself, as far as your talent in being able to write funny stuff for other people, did you try to stay away from being funny, or is the book funny?
No, the book is funny. And if you come to the book, by the way, readers, I have found, this is what I'm learning, if you come to the book expecting, some big life lessons and me to have some really profound realizations that will help you in your own life, you will be really disappointed. You will think I'm really shallow. I sat down to write a collection of funny stories. I'm a comedian. I'm an entertainer. I wanted to write sort of David Sedaris, Chuck Klosterman, funny stories. And I found, as I wrote, that there was a life story that emerged. Each chapter is a trip. It covers about 15 years. And it covers both my kind of life story and the stories of the girls that I was traveling with at first, who then left me for husbands and children. And then I started traveling alone. And then a couple of them came back for a trip or two after a divorce. And then they went away again when they got married for the second time before I got married for the first. And so you follow their own lives, too, and their different choices that they made. And so it becomes a narrative. But really, I sat down to write funny stories. I wrote it a lot the way I write a sitcom, which is to keep going back through it, saying, okay, find 10 more laughs, Pat. Find 10 more laughs. Get back in there and craft it a little bit more.
You talk about Israeli bartenders. What was it that made them so fascinating to you?
Israeli bartenders.
All bartenders. When you're a woman traveling alone, what I love about traveling alone is that you kind of drop away the judgments that you might normally have when you're at home, because you are desperate for company, right? From men, from women, from children, from anyone. You just want someone to talk to. And the way that you, the people you talk to the most are the people who are serving you. So bartenders, the world over, thank you for keeping me company while I eat dinner alone in your country, and sometimes for then taking me out for a date afterwards.
Do you know, I had a period in my life for about 3 years where I used to tour as a musician, and I was always alone. And the hardest part, the loneliest part, was the grocery stores. I don't know if you have this experience, but you go into a grocery store, and they always play songs overhead that are 20 years old. So no matter if you go right now to any grocery store, you're hearing music from from 1980 or 1990 or whatever it would be, right? They're always old songs. And so no matter where you go at any point, if you're alone, a grocery store is a lonely place.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
That's a great point. Everyone has their things. I love a grocery store. I was an only child of a mother who was a lawyer, a corporate lawyer, and always at work. And so the greatest thrill of my life, because there were never groceries in my house ever, because she was always at work, was when I turned 16 and I was given the ATM card and I got to go to the grocery store and have just the abundance. Like, I still walk into a grocery store and I can't believe how many things there are to buy. I feel so rich just walking into a grocery store.
But you're a woman. Now, here's the difference. See, a man in a grocery store is surrounded by women because there's lots of women in the grocery store. So you got to picture what I was like at that time. I was 20-something. I wasn't quite 30 yet.
Everybody else's wives.
Yeah. What was that?
You're like surrounded by everybody else's wives, and they are yours.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think of them that way. I just said, whoa, look at that one over by the cucumbers. Let me go say hello to her.
I think what your book does for people, especially with the title you have, What I Was Doing While You Were Breeding, is that it makes everybody take a second look at themselves, at their life, because there's nothing wrong with being a couple. There's nothing wrong with raising a family, and you can still have fun. It's just different kind of fun than if you were single.
Absolutely. It's just different kinds of adventures. And I hope, at the time, we're really raised as women in this society to feel a lot like if we are not on the road to marriage and children, if we are not, living our lives in that way, that we're somehow off track. There's this quote from Patton Oswalt on the back of the book that says that this is misspent youth well spent, which is lovely, but the phrase misspent youth, I think, is an interesting one because it somehow implies that you can misspend your time. And a lot of times I felt like because I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing as far as marriage and children, that I was somehow off track or broken or wasting time. And the fact is I was living my life, and it was a good one. And all of those trips that I took made me come home confident that I could go to another country alone, which made me walk into a date at Starbucks differently or walk into a job interview. And now that I'm married, makes me know who I am and feel ready to share it with somebody else. So I hope that the book also does for people who don't want to do it all right away, makes them feel like it's okay to honor all of that, because I think a lot of people do it because it's time and then get divorced, and that's what's happening a lot around us, and implode a little bit because they didn't ever get to live the life they really wanted to live.
Oh yeah, I think that's true too. That's why they always. It's a mixed message between young men and young women. We tell young men, go and sow your wild oats, and we tell young women, don't do a thing. Wait till some guy comes through, right?
Yeah, maybe you're allowed like one spring break trip, to go crazy. But if you kind of do more than that, you're losing it a bit, you know?
Right. I went to your website, by the way, and one of the links on the top is Wanderlust. I've always loved that word, Wanderlust, because I have Wanderlust. I don't get to act on it very often anymore. I did at one time, but I used to always feel that Wanderlust, that wanting to just go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to go see, to just go see and do, and it teaches you so much about the world. I hope that I hope that when I have kids, I'll continue to stick them on my back and keep going. I have two stepsons now that I inherited, and we took our honeymoon to the Galapagos. We took our honeymoon with them to the Galapagos with the two tween boys, and it was a great trip. We had the best time. And
how old are they?
They're 12 and 14.
Oh, good age.
Gosh. Yeah.
They're really fun. And I was, before the trip, I said we can't call this our honeymoon. If I'm taking two tween boys on a trip called my honeymoon, I'm going to kill myself. But then afterwards, I felt like it really was a honeymoon in the best way, because a honeymoon is when you're supposed to kind of go off together and become a family. And I felt like that really happened for the four of us in a big way. So it was a great thing.
I'm looking at your photo. You had no trouble finding romance. I know.
Sweet.
I know what your life was like. Everywhere you went, you were turning heads.
Oh, you are the sweetest.
You definitely had that.
You got girls when you're a musician.
You got that Santa Monica girl look to you. Yeah. Yeah.
You're very sweet. But you see the first passport photo in the book? I put all three of my passport photos.
Where's that?
In the very back cover, from the first one is when I was, a senior in college and about to go to Europe for the first time with my first boyfriend, and the second was when I was 30 years old and single for the first time and getting ready to travel alone, and the last one was this last Christmas traveling with my new family and my new husband. And the first one you can see I was in Chicago for college. There was a lot of pizza weight in those cheeks.
Pizza weight. So give us a thumbnail sketch of one of the stories in the book. I want to hear a story.
Well, let's think. One of the stories from the book, there's 3 chapters where I go to Argentina. And the first time that I ever travel alone was to Argentina. My only regret in life has been that I haven't lived in another country. And TV writers get kind of like a school teacher schedule where we get 3 months off a year. And so I got an apartment in Buenos Aires, and I went down there, and I signed up for 5 days a week of Spanish and 3 days a week of tango, and I went, and I met all of these expats, and I met all of these locals, and I got an Argentine boyfriend, and it was this magical trip. And so I went back the next year to recreate the magic, and I brought my 2 best girlfriends, and all these things went wrong. I just kept, the rain happened, and my friend was sick, and all these things kept going wrong. And I had planned this trip down to Tierra del Fuego, down to the tip of South America, to go around on a boat trip for 5 days around the Cape Horn, through the Penguins, and over to Chile. And I realized the morning I was supposed to fly down there that I'd left my passport in an internet cafe the night before.
Oh, no.
Couldn't get in there, and it was locked in there, and couldn't get in there, and I had to get on a plane. So basically, I got on the plane with a copy of my passport, got down there, but they wouldn't put me on the boat because I couldn't go to another country without the real passport. And so instead, I had to abandon all of these reservations on this boat trip that was a little fancier than I would normally do. And I cried, and I went to a hostel, and I, sat in the lobby with some Israeli guys and watched my boat sail off into the sunset. But I watched the people who got on the boat, and they were all like 65-year-old rich couples who could afford this boat and were retired,
Right.
And that's who I would have been traveling with. And instead, I was in this fun hostel with all of these, people who were traveling alone or with friends from all over the world. I ended up with these 15 people from all over the world having Shabbat dinner with the Israelis, and then going out because it was St. Patrick's Day to the southernmost Irish pub in the world. And I visited some of those people in Australia and in Germany, and they've stayed with me, or the Israeli picks me up and drives me to the Jordanian border when I'm in his country 5 years later. And it was this travel magic that happened because a disaster happened and I had to regroup. And it was kind of a reminder to me to not overplan and to not get the expensive boat, because that's where the rich married people are. And to just go get yourself like a nice, I was in my 30s, so I had a nice private room with a bathroom in the hostel. I splurged for the $30, to have my own room. But it was a reminder to me to go with it a little bit, because it was a magical time.
Did you ever find yourself caught up in the politics of the day?
The politics of the day, you mean in the country?
Yes, in the different countries where you were.
Well, I guess I would just, I just loved jumping into it. Like when I went to Israel, for example, I'm not Jewish, I'm not religious. I just kind of went and spent a day with every different kind of person, a secular kibbutznik who believed in a two-state solution. I had dinner with a Hasidic family in the Old City in Jerusalem. I had brunch the next day with gay European diplomats who were working for pro-Palestinian organizations. I had, everybody I walked around with and heard their versions of the stories and their versions of what was going on there. And they would all answer the questions I would ask them about the politics and about the situation there with the same sentence, which was, depends who you ask.
Which is always true. Yeah, that's what we get all the time.
It was, and I just loved Israel for how forthcoming they are. They don't have small talk there. They don't have niceties. They want direct questions. They give you direct answers.
Really?
Israel and I were a real match conversation.
Is that the romantic approach too from the Israeli guys? There's no small talk.
I mean, zero. You are either really religious and don't hold hands, or everyone is sleeping with each other immediately. It's all of those. It is crazy because they're all 18. They all go into the army, men and women, right? So you have these it's like Olympic Village.
We could die tomorrow. Come on.
Very fit.
Tomorrow we could be dead. Come on, let's go do it now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow dead.
Young, fit people, and they are trying to repopulate their country, and they're working hard at it.
Yeah, and they want you to be the mother. We could be dead tomorrow. You be my mother. You be the mother of my child. I don't know what accent I'm doing. I'm just kidding. I'm pulling out of a hat here.
Are there any traditions that you're bringing into your married family that you've experienced growing up?
that I experienced growing up with my family.
Yes.
Well, my mom taught me to travel, and my new husband loves to travel too, and he and I have had a great year of travel together, and are very committed to continuing to do that. My dad did a lot of playing the guitar in the backyard, and taking me camping and teaching me how to play outside in the river, while my mother often stayed in hotels nearby before they got divorced. And I love my husband is also a guitar player, and we like to play outside. So continuing those traditions, I hope to do. So
does your husband now mind all the sex stories that you have? I mean, does that come up, or does he not know about the book?
Oh yeah, and before I published it, when I just had a few chapters, I gave the chapters to him and said, "Are you okay with me even shopping this?" And he took it to a bar.
Oh no!
Yeah, and he bellied up, but he came back very, very, very supportive. And the very sweet thing he did was he said, these pages really inspired me to go have more adventures. And I was like, oh no,
right.
Oh no, he's the last person I want to inspire to go have sexy single travel adventures. But then he said, before I have another kid with you, I think we should have been on all 7 continents. And I was like, what a great ending. Our girl in the book doesn't have to stay home to find love and family. She has to hit the road, but with a guy, or maybe with 3 guys in tow. And it was when I knew I could marry him.
I think that's what Bill Murray he crashed a bachelor party the other day.
I saw that. I love him.
Did you see that? And that's exactly what he said to the guy. He said, you know what you do? Go on a trip, get into countries that's hard to get into, and countries that are hard to get out of. And if after how much time, you come back to JFK and you still want to be married, then get married.
It's true. It's true. You really see the real side of people when you're on the road, because you get them out of their comfort zone, and you see, can they handle new things coming at them? Can they handle going with the flow too? I am a big believer in if you are on your way to the Eiffel Tower, and some little French guy invites you into his cheese shop to meet his family and have some crusty bread. That's how you spend your day in Paris. That's way more important. The people you meet and the little experiences you have with the locals absolutely should be trumping what your plan for the day was to see the monument. And I couldn't really marry somebody who didn't feel that way.
So let's compare notes here a little bit. When you're a guy and there's a one-night stand, that there's somebody waiting at your door, and this does happen. You're playing in a bar. You don't have to be famous. You're just the guy with the guitar,
right?
And you have a room at the hotel, and the girls know where that room is, and they will wait for you.
Sure.
Give it an hour and a half later, you don't see her anymore after that.
Right.
That wouldn't be considered romance in my book. Do you consider that romance? That's just a moment. No, that's not a romance.
And I talk in the book about how the first sentence of the book is, "I am not a slut in the United States of America." and that is true. And that is true. Often the exploits that you're reading about in the book are often the only sex I had that year. And married people, they apparently have sex an average of once a week. So that's a lot more sex than they were having than I was having. At home, I'm not a promiscuous person at home. One person at a time, several dates first, all of that, right? On the road, I like a vacation romance. And what I hope is going to happen, though, is not a one-night stand like you might have in your own city, at a bar one night, which is, again, not romance, like you said, but that you're going to meet somebody and you're going to fall madly in love for a week until you get on a plane and go home. I want them to say, "I love you." I'm going to say it back, which I have a really hard time saying in the U.S. I want to go to their family's barbecue. I want to go to their friend's wedding. I want them to take me to their favorite little bar in town. And it's really the joy of it is that you get to throw yourselves in with abandon because nobody is afraid, because everyone knows it's going to end. And so you get that new love rush for a few days or a few weeks or a few months, and that for me was the addiction. It was not a one night stand. I agree. I have no interest.
Did you relate to the movie, or did you see the movie? One Midnight in Paris, the Woody Allen movie?
And it's really funny you say that, because Midnight in Paris was my first and second date with my husband.
Oh.
We went and saw the movie. 3/4 of the way through, the fire alarm went off. and we had to all evacuate.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, you know, we went out and had a margarita afterwards, and then the next day he called me and said, well, we have to see the rest of the movie. So we went out again and had a margarita first and broke into the movie halfway through and watched the end of the movie. And I loved that movie.
Owen Marshall, that's the actor, right?
Yes.
If Owen Marshall had been a woman, that would have been you, right? I mean, that was your life, except for going back in time.
Yeah. You know, the other movies I love are the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, you know, After Midnight, or Before Midnight. Those three movies, the Linklater movies. And it was, you know, the couple meeting in a European town and just having one night together. That happened when I was 22 and leaving college. Was the first movie. So the couple has aged with me. And then they did the 10 years later where they met up in Paris for just one day of talking and being in love. And then you see them 10 years later in Greece. And they've been the same age as me all the way through the movies, and so those are movies that really capture my desire for just the sweet pain of true love when you know you have to get on the train at the end of the day and go in separate directions.
Wow.
Yeah,
Kristen, what an inspiration you are. I mean it in every way.
Oh, thanks.
Kristen, fun interview.
Yeah.
All right, so the book, I went to the website. It is KristenNewman.com. Kristen, Kristin, theotherKristenNewman.com. It's a great website. How do we get the book? On the website? And
yeah, you can go on the website, you can go on Amazon, you can go on Random House, you can buy it all over the place.
All right, and the new TV show starts when?
Starts, I think, this winter. And also, you can buy the audiobook recorded by yours truly if you want to continue to hear the dulcet sounds of my voice.
No, I was going to say, if it's an audiobook, I'm hoping you're the voice.
I'm the voice.
All right. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Get in front of the camera sometimes. Don't just write for those shows.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah, oh, come on. I'm not just saying that. I'm looking at you here. I know what I'm talking about.
Tells the truth.
Yeah.
I'm 40 now. Things are changing.
I don't. Well, it looks good to me. Looks good to me. All right. Kristen, thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you so much.
Very, very fun. All right, we'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The brutal cold this winter blamed by some for putting the economy in deep freeze.
The economy did shrink bigger than expected. The GDP down a full 1%.
Fox Biz Network's Tom Sullivan.
Not all economists are blaming the cold since the West had an unseasonably warm winter. And weekly first-time jobless claims down 27,000 to 300,000, almost an exact reversal of the last week's increase.
The CDC finds there was a slight increase in the number of American babies born last year.
The author of the report says just 4,700 more children were born in 2013 than the year before.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. And a hospital baby swap investigation underway in South Africa in the case of two baby girls switched at birth in 2010. Court documents say one of the mothers recently learned about the mistake, wants her biological daughter back, but the second mother has refused. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Okay, great. I'll just hold on.
There is something about the road that beckons, that invites us to pack